Hello everyone, welcome back to Ukrainian Media Podcast, conversation with those who help us make sense of present by understanding the past. I'm Olena Solodovnikova, and today I'm excited to be joined by Professor Yaroslav Hrytsak, a famous Ukrainian historian. Hello, Yaroslav.
Pleasure to meet you. Thank you for having me.
Of course, I would like to start with the peace talks we were witnessing, first of all, in Alaska. From your point of view, who appeared to be in control during the negotiations, Trump or Putin, and why do you think so?
I'm really not interested in this kind of question. I'm sorry to tell that. I'm not political analyst, and I'm not, I forget my cards, so to say, tarot cards, to speculate. I'm historian. So I don't see this as kind of really breakthrough. I don't see it's a breakthrough from historical point of view. I see some problems, some movement in this direction, but let's wait and see. Let's wait and see. I cannot answer this kind of questions. Forget about it. Let's talk about history.
Okay. I ask you in historical way. I would wonder whether these negotiations have a historical parallel with the ones in Munich, 1938.
No.
Why do you think?
It could be. There was a threat. There was such a threat that it could turn into Munich appeasement, or more so in Yalta. Because I believe Yalta will be more close, because what we have here, we have two supposed superpower, because I don't see Russia as a superpower. It's great, but not a superpower. So they're trying to get negotiations how to divide the world to their sphere of influence. So it didn't happen. Yes, there's probably some kind of shadow of Munich here day, but for better, I believe this threat has been avoided by Trump. I believe that's quite a different thing, because again and again, Trump is not Chamberlain, and Chamberlain is not Trump. So let's forget about it. I always said that it makes sense to make historical parallels, but might be cautious. Because we have to not just the similarity, but what is very much different, distinctively different. And I believe this kind of comparison between Alaska and Munich or Yalta was very much overrated, overextended.
Okay, but do you think that will be the last negotiation, and any other victims will be? Because every time we talk about next victim of Russia after they stop war in Ukraine, would it be Baltic states or Moldova? What do you think?
So let me just say that as a historian. As a historian, I believe I have some kind of larger perspective, historical larger perspective, and I wish I could be wrong. I wish it could be wrong. But I don't believe this negotiation will leave some kind of the truth, more so to peace. There's still a very long way to go. And I don't underrate the importance of the negotiations. Negotiations must be, and it's positive, so to say, but I don't believe that will lead some kind of sustainable result once Putin is in power. Here is another historical parallel which might be helpful in us, handy, and this is probably with the war in Korea. This kind of the Soviet Union American talks at that time, and let me just remind you, started in 1949. And it brought a peace until 4 years later only. And the reason being because Stalin has died. So this is probably tell you something. Under Stalin, under Putin, no sustainable peace could not be achieved, because this is, so to say, in the core of their ideology or politics, this aggression, so to say. So that's what I mean to say. It takes a long time. I believe there will be chances for really kind of peace talks after Putin would be away from political scene, either physically or any kind of other scenario that I don't know, but I do not believe in the lasting peace. So again and again, this is something will shift in the emphasis or shift in the focus, because we used to talk about territories. I don't believe territories is that important. They are important, without a doubt, but more important are guarantees. Guarantees there will be no future war. And so far, we don't see any guarantees on any side, from any side, serious guarantees, so to say. It may end like another Budapest memorandums. Probably the closest will be Budapest, 1994, because we remember there has been guarantees behind this on the paper, and they didn't matter that much. So to say, their price was not more than paper. These guarantees were printed on.
Yes, you always mention that Ukraine main priority now is preserved to its statehood, not its territory. However, as for me, these things have a very strict connection, because if Ukraine cedes territories, it will be eaten away piece by piece.
No, 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 no. Let's not exaggerate it again. Let's talk about the experiences. There is one experience. As another example, it's Finland, the Finnish Soviet war.
Yeah,
Right.
they lost a very big part of territories.
They lost, but they now turned to be the most successful state, the most human, the state with the most human face, so to say. If anybody wants to find a place where you could have a comfortable life with high standards, it's in Finland. Education kind of thing. They use this opportunity. There's opportunity of peace, even so having this kind of threat by the Soviet Union, but they make a breakthrough. So if in larger historical terms, let's see the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is Ukraine is leaving Russian space. This one the has been for the last 300 or so years, even more, 400 years, so to say. And therefore, it's extremely historical turning moment, because Ukraine is leaving this space with every day. And this war is probably the final act, because Russia could not leave Ukraine peacefully. And the other result is not the end of the story, it's a beginning of the other story, because you couldn't leave the Russian space and remain on your own, because it's still too dangerous. Ukraine has to leave Russian space and move into another space, which is European space or Western space. So this is turning moment. Ukraine is leaving one space, entering in the other place, and the space is West. And what I try to see here as a very positive moment is that seven heads of the states, they went together with Zelensky to Washington.
Yeah.
This is already joke, they was called seven samurais nowadays. But the truth is, I don't believe they're doing for Ukraine. I believe they're doing for themselves, because they do realize there's new circumstances, and they may be the next, so to say. And because mostly they're not terrified by Putin, but not terrified by Trump, by his threats to the European space. I mean, by all the kind of things. So what I mean to say, this is a little breaking through moment. So let's focus on other issues. So I want to discuss who look better, Putin or Trump in Alaska. This is small details. It's mostly for journalists, political analysts. I don't know how to say. It was very much like, probably on the Soviet Union. They studied who will be the order they will stand on the mausoleum, who will be the first, second, all the kind of things. Or like North Korea. This is the time. This is the time of analysis, which I don't care that much, because I don't see many senses of that. Let's see long-term effects. A long-term effect is that Ukraine is really leaving the space, unfortunately, having to pay a very high price for that.
Yes, and could we discuss the risk of state collapse? I mean, Ukrainian state collapse and facing the same fate as Yugoslavia. And could you imagine that our neighboring countries take advantage of the situation and take some parts of Ukraine territory?
No, I don't see it. Under one condition, that we're talking about probably Hungary, and you're talking about Poland. I'm excluding total case of Poland. I'm excluding from Poland, because whatever relations are between Ukraine and Poland, there are no such topics that Ukraine, Poland would get this territory, or be willing. Forget about it. It's a kind of not serious talks, because there was serious commitment from the very beginning of Polish elites not to focus, not to touch these issues. And this is exactly what Putin planned, because he talked to Tusk, he talked to Sikorsky, that it would be better if Poland would took away Lviv, our territories. It's when we discussing the thing, we place into hands of Putin. Putin doesn't understand. Putin doesn't understand the dynamics of Polish-Ukraine relation, because they see this is very much like a Russian-Ukraine relation. It's not. It's a distinctly not. This might be other story with Hungary, because in Hungary it's exactly different case. Even comparing with Poland, because Poland is still a very much divided country. You have a half and half. This is really kind of the struggle, and the half is more Ukrainian, the other is not less Ukrainian. It's not case in Hungary, because Hungary unfortunately have a majority, which are rather supporting Russia, either explicitly or implicitly. But I want to say there is only one condition when Hungary could claim Transcarpathia, is that Hungary has to leave European Union.
Yeah.
Or be expelled from European Union. Because this is a part of European Union story. European story was built as an unprecedented historical moment, because we don't have this any kind of historical memory, a large space where there is no war between two neighboring countries is possible anymore. Remember history. France and Germany was fighting with each other for years, 100 years. France and Italy, France and Britain, Austria and Italy. You have a very bloody history, but nobody could not even imagine there will be a new war between France and Germany. So this is what I mean to say, because there is a pact, there is guarantee, there is taboo in a European Union to start talking about new war, and you couldn't take the war territory without a war. So this is what I'm saying. And another kind of consensus in European Union that all the borders that in European Union are not just, because they are not just borders, but you cannot touch them, because once you touch one border, the all other world will question as well.
Yes, but
yeah.
Sorry for interruption. Sometimes some people compare the European Union and the USSR. That is not so and now we talk about the borders inside the European Union. They stop borders inside it.
Those who compare European Union and United Soviet Union are either dishonest or not intelligent enough.
Okay.
This is something which it's for Stockholm point of view, it's so outrageous, this kind of comparison. Look, you have a Soviet Union. Soviet Union could not exist without violence.
Yeah.
Soviet Union couldn't exist without KGB. Putin would not exist without his political apparatus of suppression. See what I mean here? So what kind of comparison is European Union and Soviet Union? Do you have a kind of European KGB? Do you have a kind of European subjective apparatus? Do you have this is exactly the point. You don't understand this is two different historical processes, very much different, so to say. I mean, the structural comparison doesn't help that much if you don't see the kind of essential difference between those two systems.
I mean that some countries, especially Poland, sometimes complain, oh, we have so not many advantages of the European Union because of taxes and so on. And so with thinking of about like a Brexit.
This situation, this scenario is always possible. But so far, it's probably belongs to this kind of sci-fi Polish case. Also in Germany, we have alternative for Germany, because for most of Germans and Poles, European works and works very well. You have been traveling to Poland recently. You could very expertly see the difference between Ukraine and European Union, quality of the roads.
Yeah.
Once you step, and this is European money. So this is what I'm saying here. This is different standards of life. I'm not talking about standard economical standards, also political standards of life, without a doubt. So what I'm saying here, let's forget about this kind of comparison between Poland and Russia, European Union and Soviet Union. Those who compare that, they have very low understanding or even knowledge of history. Because the basic problem of history is a violence. Mm-hmm. Violence and poverty, they go together, like two brothers, so to say. So what I mean to say, the main challenge of all the political system have to minimize violence to some tolerant level. European Union managed that. Russia never did it, never managed that. So this is crucial difference, so to say. Exactly. Yes, Hungary is somewhere between because they have a totalitarian regime. So this is what I'm saying here, that some kind, I don't know why we Ukrainians look for the worst case scenario, just because we want to be scared, just want to be crying wolf to saying this is something else. No, I believe this situation is very much different. Historical perspective, yes, the situation is very much dramatic for Ukraine, without a doubt. We're paying a high price. That's without doubt. It's not dramatic, but it's not tragic, because I see the other story of the part of the story, because exactly Ukraine is living this space when there is overproduction of violence, constant repression against own citizens and aggression against neighbors. See what I mean? In my wildest dream, I could not imagine Zelensky being Putin. In my wildest dream, I could not any kind of the scenario Lukashenko, like anybody will come to power, or there'll be Ukrainian Stalin. Or by they talking French Stalin or German Stalin. See what I mean here?
Yeah.
This is past. This is past. So let's forget about these comparisons. Yeah, they may be kind of entertaining during the table talks, kind of the anecdotes or the kind of thing, but when talking seriously, this is not something worth discussing.
Precisely. You have often claimed that Putin is not interested in attacking Western Ukraine, and however, there are experts who believe that that is could be the global mistake. Could you explain your stance in more detail?
That I don't know for sure. I knew that he was not interested. I don't know what's going on in his head. He was not in so far. Until I would say until 22, probably. I don't know, probably earlier. But let me take a step back. Because basically the military plan of the full-scale aggression of against Ukraine has been accepted by right after the Georgian War, 2008. And these plans, they presume the military, full-scale military aggression that will lead to the partition of Ukraine in three parts. What is called the New Russia, they call New Russia, which are mostly Eastern Russian-speaking East and South, should be annexed to Russia as a new Russia. What would be left over of Ukraine, most agricultural regions in the center, Kyiv, would be turned into puppet state like Belarus. And Putin was not interested in Galicia and Western Ukraine because he believed it's too toxic for Russian revolt. And he believed this was probably one of the biggest mistakes of Stalin. The Stalin tried to integrate this territory together with Baltic and the Soviet state. And they turned to be the most, so to say, the most subversive, the most problematic part of the Soviet Union. So this what was being from 2008 to 2008 until later on. And therefore exactly he suggested Putin, Tusk or Yaroslav to take this territory, which is very problematic. I don't know it now because it may change. Because it depends to what extent Putin is ready to start his attack, not just against Ukraine, but of this country, new NATO country, to restore this kind of Warsaw Pact. If this is in his head, then Western Ukraine is a must to be under Russian control, but it's a platform. So I don't know, because everything depends on the circumstances on the ground, what war it is. I presume that he's not stupid enough, Putin, that he knows that he understands that even Donbass for him is getting a kind of hard nut to crack, because even Donbass it's a territory which requires a lot of efforts on his part to take control of and still not have. So why talking about Western Ukraine? Again, this is what I'm saying. I don't know what was going in his head, but at least sometime I believe that he was not really interested in Western Ukraine. He wants Western Ukraine, this problematic territory, be taken by these neighbors, by Hungary and Poland. And he may forget it, because there will be no kind of response from the Polish sides on this issue. And again, I said, Hungarian on the one condition, that Hungary should leave European space, European Union.
Okay, well, let's approach to Poland again, and how it has changed his attitude towards Ukrainians after the presidential election. The official attitude towards Ukrainians becoming increasingly cold, and whereas Ukraine refugees have earned back all the money that was invested to them and made significant contribution in the country, like 3% of the GPT, if I'm not mistaken, and Ukrainian students are taking up half of seats of Polish universities. Why do you think why the Polish society becoming so restless? Is it rooted out of the sense of existential risk? I mean, maybe that Poles are right, and thereby they are protecting their identity. They're afraid of us. They're afraid of Ukrainians. No?
Again, let's forget it. You're talking about Poland as it is Russia or North Korea. That's really my purpose. This kind of the homogeneous country with one ruler or the kind of things. There are two Polands nowadays. One is, let's put this, Poland Trzaskowski and Tusk, and the other Poland of Nawrocki. And they were two very different Polands. It's like in America, pro-Trump, anti-Trump. Poland is very deeply divided, not like Russia or North Korea, not like a Hungary. And now this is the part which is pro-Ukrainian for a long year, for at least for 30 years of my life. I know my friends, and they're still in power, Tusk in power. There are a lot of people like a Renaissance Foundation or other things, activists who remembers the time, younger people, which are very pro-Ukrainian.
Yes, I have so many Polish friends too.
And this is let's forget about this is kind of comparison. Not talk about the Polish society is a kind of not friendly to Ukraine. part of Polish society. Part of Polish society. Yes, it's getting, yeah. And they
official position of official policies. Unfortunately, they use these policies now.
What is official policy? We're talking about Tusk or Nawrodzki?
Nawrodzki.
But it's not official. He's a president. But Tusk is prime minister. And talks about Poland seriously. The more functions, the more levers are in the hands of the Tusk rather in Trzaskowski. It's not Ukraine. It's a different kind of political system, so to say. So this is very much divided society. And now we're talking about Tusk and his main levers to have this politics. Yes, for sure, they have a new election, so there's a danger that this Nawrodzki party would win. And this may be a really serious point. But so far, again, as I said, yes, there is a significant part of Polish society which see Ukraine rather negatively because they believe that Ukrainians coming into large numbers, they're getting their jobs, all the kind of things, which is practical nonsense, without a doubt. But you couldn't talk to them or using rational arguments like a 3% of GDP, or because they don't, very much like a populist of Trump or Zelensky. They don't listen to rational argument. They're populist. They listen to their heads, to their hearts, which is kind of this, say, how should I put it? Very much emotional. So this is the story. The story is that they feel that Ukrainians are not grateful, not thankful because they celebrate Bandera, because they have heroes, they could not accept Volhynia, all the kind of responsibility, all this kind of historical nonsense, which is not important in the sense, in strategical reason, because we have any. What really happened in Poland, first of all, Poland, a significant part of Polish society, has changed its position because they were really afraid of Putin and Russia at the very beginning of the war. Mm-hmm. And they were so welcoming Ukrainians heart openly because they see the Ukrainian standing as a kind of their defense. Now, of the fourth year of war, they believe that they are defended. They believe that this makes a difference because they are part of NATO. More so, Nawrodzki sees himself as a very close ally of Trump. He believes that Trump would defend Poland, allied he would defend Ukraine. So they feel very much pretty secure, which is also nonsense because they're not. So they're now raising their voices, so to say, for a variety of reasons. They're raising their voices, and this very much like they're against immigration. And in this sense, it's immigrations are Ukrainians, or the kind of things. It's like anti-immigration talks like it everywhere, but in Ukraine it's multiplied, in Poland it's multiplied by this kind of historical resentments about Volhynia, all the kind of things. And this is a combination. Again and again, this is what my Polish colleagues used to say. This kind of the Ukrainian attitude, or kind of the Ukrainian politics is not that much toward Ukraine. It's an inside problem. It was they used as a card, playing card between themselves.
It's about domestic politics.
Very much for domestic policy, but Ukraine is a victim, so to say. Ukraine is a victim of this domestic.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, so to say. So I believe that still, and this is very much evident if you travel from Poland to Lithuania. Lithuanians still themselves very much unsecured, and Lithuanians extremely supportive of Ukraine because they understand once Ukraine, God forbid, fell, then the next. Poles don't have this kind of the fears, wrongly so. I mean, not all the Poles, but significant part of the Poles. So what I'm saying, this is a cold civil war in Poland about Ukraine.
Oh,
what I mean here. Because if you read Polish papers, and I do constantly, depending what papers you read. If you look Gazeta Wyborcza, it's extremely pro-Ukraine. It's probably pro-Ukraine, the some Ukrainian part, some Ukrainian newspapers say. But if you read the other part, yes, they are anti-Ukrainian. And this is again something which I have to say. Let's not compare Poland with Russia, North Korea, or more so, or even with Hungary. This is very much divided society, and I believe it's also very important because in a sense, and this is something, I believe we are much closer to Poles than to Russians in our, so to say, attitudes toward the life, and our understanding of history, so to say, and our idea of democracy, which very often is very much anarchistic, so to say, in our historical connections, for better or worse, because there are also good parts and bad parts, so to say. So I would be not that much concerned with the Poland. Still, has a lot of work to do, without a doubt. But again, second thing, and I'm sorry I'm getting too long. I believe that what we have right now, and this is something very different, very closely different for the first time, we have a new triangle, which is Berlin, Paris, London, which will be very hard to imagine. Even it wasn't exist not even at the beginning of the war. So there's a quite new triangle which didn't exist anymore, and Starmer, Macron, and Merz, they're now put together with Washington. It would be extremely good if Tusk or anybody from Poland could join this, so to say. But I believe this is a coalition of willings. How this is say it in English? Coalition of who was? There's willing countries. How this translate them? Коалиция охочих. Not the English term, but basically, you know what is this? This kind of the country, which is the northern country, the Scandinavian country, Baltic country, Great Britain, France, Germany, Czech, and probably Poland. This is a new, quiet setting, which may be extended through Atlantic Ocean to Canada, and to the other side to Japan, Australia, South Korea. And yes. in Ukraine is a crucial part of this, because it happens because of this Russian-Ukrainian war.
Yes, you're so optimistic about the people.
I'm not optimistic. There's no place for optimism. I'm rather cynical optimist, as I say. But I don't believe you have to cry in wolf to say that everything is not doomed, that everything is no chances to say, because let's look from the other perspective. It's historical turning moment. Yes, there is such a moment in history when history turns to fails to turn, to say. But so far I don't see it. Because for the first time in Ukrainian history, you have support of the West. It should be not under-evaluated, so to say, undermined, because there's something very important. Is it sufficient? No, without a doubt. But let's wait and see. It's a long war. It's a war for long. Don't expect it to end in this year, or probably even in the next year. Even there'll be some truce, will be not a peace. Because it's probably you're a young person, and I believe it's still you help you to see the end of this war. I'm not sure about myself. I'm older than you, but I understand it's a very long-term process, so to say. So let's make the kind of final conclusion, but every moment, because it may change from the 18th of August till the 20th of August, depending on circumstances. This is ups and downs. This is historical ups. It's events. But a part of it or beyond events, there is a process. And I believe let's focus on process rather than on the events. Who was treated on Alaska and what is the consequence of their meeting, so to say.
You consider that Ukrainian government is toward totalitarianism. What are the signs of this?
No, not totalitarianism.
That is also called.
No. I'm probably not intelligent enough, but I'm not that stupid. It's not. I'm talking not authoritarianism, authoritarianism. It's a difference.
Oh, sorry. Probably I'm mistaken. Okay, yes, authoritarianism. Okay, because I was wondering why you talk about totalitarianism.
I never talk about totalitarianism. Never, ever.
Yeah.
This is because I said I could hardly imagine that Putin, Zelensky would be Lukashenko or Putin. It's authoritarianism. This is without a doubt, and this is a reality, because basically you see this is nowadays the politics are dominated by one party, which is the Zelensky party, and the kind of the administrative life, and even more so even the legislature, Verkhovna Rada parliament, also dominated by party which is very much loyal personally to Zelensky, and there was this kind of movement of authoritarianism. The last example is exactly their politics, their decision against the anti-corruption institution. What is that? It's not authoritarianism, but it was stopped. See what I mean here? Because there are some breaks which helps not to let, which now allowed the sector to open. What was called the paper revolution? This kind of young students that come to the street with their protest, and it stopped. So what I mean to say, yes, there is a tilt or movement or effort to create authoritarian rule in Ukraine, but so far there are breaks to this kind of the efforts, which is more civil society. And very importantly, which I see the most positive thing, that nowadays the civil society is joined by the youngest cohort of people. Because we're always afraid that these young people, they might be too frustrated by the war or the kind of thing, be less active. It's not going to be the way we were wrong, so to say. Again, I couldn't judge, I couldn't say this will be your turn to authoritarianism after the war. Everything could happen. But so far, I don't see that this is a danger, one danger, but this is not the danger. I believe Ukraine has much important challenges. And the first important challenge is how to move out of this space. And secondly, very importantly, how to finish the homework, complete the homework which is needed to enter the European Union, because there's still a lot of homework to done. And one, in my understanding, and this way I keep repeating, the most important reform is the judicial system. How to create an independent judicial system, because this is a breaking point, so to say. And so far, nobody, no president, no power in Ukraine, no parties could manage to successfully to even approach this issue. So this is something on the paper that has to be done during this kind of European integration, because I believe I would repeat myself. So what I'm saying here, there's other challenges that just authoritarian rule, because I believe, yes, this is on the list of the, there is some danger, but on the list of the dangers which we can have, I wouldn't put in the higher position. Probably in the middle, this is relatively low.
Yes, but I have the same feelings like authoritarian regime, and you say, where is I am now? Because you open the book with dictatorship and try to compare the points about dictatorship, and sometimes you see, okay, we have it in Ukraine. Oh,
beware of comparison. Beware of comparison. That's what I say, because the right comparison is just see both similarities and dissimilarities. If you focus on similarities only, you may get this station wrong. So again, yes, there are some similarities, but there are things which are very distinctive, and those distinct which are different, maybe they're much more important than similarities.
Yes. Actually, when do you expect the election to be held in Ukraine?
I'm not political analyst again. I forget my tarot cards.
Okay. Okay.
I believe there will be elections, and I do believe there will be a really political struggle, rivalry, that this time Zelensky would not dominate the political scene. He will face a serious rivals. I guess, I bet, I hope, presume that one of his rivals will be Zaluzhny. And the real challenge is whether Zaluzhny will come with some kind of meaningful political project. And also whether he'll be able to get some team to this problem. But let's wait and see. So we are waiting. We are facing a new era or new page of political struggle in Ukraine. But I believe what is very important, this will not be station of 214 or 204, but there'll be pro-Russian forces and pro-Western forces. No, there'll be the rivalry between two pro-Western sources, and they'll be fighting who will be the most efficient to bring Europe out of Russian space and European Union. So this is quite a different station. Look, if I may list the differences, crucial differences which occurred during the war. First of all, Ukraine got a green light for European integration. Another thing went too far to stop it. This is something very important. And the seven samurais talk is another sign. So this is the third thing. Secondly, Ukraine lost the territories of Donbass and Crimea, which in many senses, let's face it, was most pro-Russian and Russia tilted territories. And nowadays, Ukraine is very homogeneous, much more homogeneous than it used to be before, because Ukraine has lost territories. And secondly, because many Ukrainians nowadays, especially Russian-speaking territories, now they have a, if not hatred, at least alienation toward Russia. Because Russia is bombing their homes, they're killing their kids, all the kind of thing, so they feel the kind of affinity. And this is something very important because you have a new circumstance. Ukraine has become much more homogeneous than it used to before. So therefore, I'm saying here, we could expect to have some pro-Russian party. There will be probably some, probably with Arestovich, somebody else with their agenda, but they wouldn't have a chance, probably even get to the parliament this time. This I'm fantasizing, but there will be minor party. The third thing that we tend to forget, that practically in Ukraine, oligarchs has disappeared. You don't hear them that much.
Yeah.
They're either abroad or under arrest, or they keep silence, so to say. And this is something which is very much crucial, because I believe the oligarch system was one of the main obstacles for Ukraine to move out of the Russian space. Because in this sense, the oligarch system still had some kind of tilting toward the autocracy, all the kind of things. So I was listed at least 3 things or conditions which make Ukraine very much different during the war that was before the war. Let's see what we after the war. But if you take all these kind of 3 factors together, I believe this creates some kind of opportunity. The issue is whether we could use opportunity. We could really use this opportunity, this kind of meaningful project, so to say. Would organize the civil society, more so that most of the civil society now is on the front line and has new military experience again. That I don't know. But this is task. It could be resolved in words. It should be resolved in deeds. And this is something I believe we have to aim to focus in the right after we'll be getting closer and closer to the end of the war.